This is Reah, and this is Just the Who of Us, where we talk about a range of topics, including life events, current events, spirituality, entertainment, family relationships, as well as answering listener questions and more.
Welcome back again. Today I'm reading chapter 5. Yes, chapter 5 of my autobiography, Dirt on My Claw. It is available on my website, philology.net/books. And so if you've been following along, you heard me read Chapter 1, Daddy Issues, Chapter 2, Mommy Issues, Chapter 3, Disruptive Behaviors, and Chapter 4, Love-Hate Relationships. And just to kind of catch you up, Daddy Issues was about my relationships with different fathers in my life. My father, my children's fathers, my uncle, who was has been through my childhood a positive father figure in my life. Just different positive and negative relationships with different fathers in my life. Chapter 2, Mommy Issues, was really about my relationship with myself as a mother over the years. Not so much about my relationship with my mother, but more so my relationship with myself as a mother over the year. So, uh, chapter 3, Disruptive Behaviors, was about various things that I went through in my life that involved issues, like more so issues I created for myself. Chapter 4, Love-Hate Relationships, was love-hate relationship with family, with my own decision making, with my sister. Most of these are really more about my life choices, my life experiences, and my life choices more than they are the other people. So here we are at chapter 5, Sexually Inappropriate. Here we go. Disassociating emotion from sex is common in people who have experienced sexual trauma. Society can easily label someone as promiscuous, slutty, or a hoe when she has had various sexual partners. I'm not saying that's never the case. Some people just have multiple or various partners because they want to. However, often the person has been through some type of sexual trauma and cuts off emotions related to sex. That was a large portion of my teenage years, actually, between wanting to be in control and being the one taken advantage rather than being taken advantage of again. Um, it's kind of a warped way to control a situation. Not a safe or healthy way, but uh, sometimes this means the person who has sex with no emotions attached, with no emotional attachment, and so it's not a bond that requires future commitment. Sometimes this means the person has sex with no emotional attachment, so it is not a bond that requires future commitment. Someone who has, or the first time the person betrays or lets a person down. Some Someone who has experienced the trauma tends to withdraw or end the relationship. So sometimes the person has sex with no emotional attachment, as then there is no future commitment. If you don't catch feelings for the person, then you don't have to worry about expecting them to be there. Or the first time the person betrays or lets a person down. Someone who's experienced the trauma tends to withdraw in the relationship. Like the first time that you're let down by a partner, sometimes it can make you, all right, well, to hell with trying to be responsible, be in a relationship, catching feelings, whatever you want to call it, because I'm just going to get hurt. It is a common reaction. On the opposite end, people can be completely turned off from sex or intimacy after sexual trauma. This is because they do not trust anyone to be sexually involved or intimate with them. I've experienced both sides. While sex and feelings are something I reference spiritually and had an awakening, and it is all meaningful and something I will always cherish, it has definitely not always been that way for me. Sexual and intimate feelings for me have been fleeting at times. Turning off emotions for someone is a skill I've come to master over the years. It doesn't mean I don't care about this person, that they aren't important to me, or they have no meaning in my life. They probably do. It just means any affection for them is no longer physical. I guess this is the reason I'm no longer in a relationship with the men I had children with, whether it was because of neglect on their end, complete abandonment upon discovering one would be a father, choosing to not actively parent, or choosing to only parent the children living in their home, or because our personal relationship failed for so many reasons. For their privacy, I'll not specify which reason pertains to which man. I had not learned conflict resolution in a healthier, productive manner, and this is something I strive to work on still. So that's just kind of one of my children's fathers completely abandoned his duty as a father when he found out, well, he had like five other children he found out about at the same time. Just yay. I don't know if he parents any of those children, but I do know that he has chosen to never meet or parent our child. So that was fun. Um, Sexuality is more than just sexual activity, though. So many things can affect our sexuality, both good and bad. Good, healthy experiences can lead to good, healthy experiences can lead to good, healthy experiences and the opposite does just that. So positive, healthy experiences lead to other positive, lead to other positive, healthy experiences, and negative experiences usually lead to other negative experiences if you don't cater to or work to resolve those issues. We can also take our bad sexual experiences and things can go either way. It can haunt us forever, or we can take control of it. A lot of times we experience both. In my case, it was definitely both. Being in an inappropriate sexual situation when you're just a toddler can skew your sexual point of view. Being raped by someone you know when you're a teenager can give you what? Being raped by someone you know when you're a teenager can give you a negative point of view. Being drunk and thinking someone is trying to hurt you because of a past traumatic experience can send you into a catatonic state for hours while you replay a portion of a past trauma in your head over and over like it's happening right in front of you. I've also had that experience. All of these are from personal experience, and I will go into them to an extent with the respect that my children will read this at some point. According to the CDC, 1 in 5 women will have experienced sexual trauma in some form during their life, with 1 in 3 being between 11 and 18 years of age, and 1 in 8 females being younger than the age of 10. While this statistic seems accurate, I can only speak on my personal experience. It has happened to me. I've absolutely learned that everyone has the right to say no. Drunk, sober, unclear, everyone has the right to say no, and everyone has the obligation to stop when they are told no. Everyone has the right to be a child and stay innocent. Everyone has the obligation to not be inappropriate with a child, no matter what the child is doing or who is not watching. While I know that morally it is neither safe nor smart to be sexually promiscuous, I cannot say that if I was still single, I would not have the highest of sexual standards because of my experience has told me that sex means nothing and people take what they want. That doesn't take away from the fact that I know it is important to be safe, healthy, and educated when it comes to sex. And that is most significant when it is with someone you trust, respect, and plan to solely focus on sexually. Our brains and our minds sometimes clash. So your life experience can tell you no one actually cares about me. They just want what they can get from me. And why not just be the one to navigate what I give them. And then you can also at the same time understand and comprehend that the importance of safe sex and things like that, and controlling to the best of your ability who your partner is, who you involve yourself with, who you place yourself around, and things like that. Your brain can go through both. Your body and brain have experiences that can easily tell you both. As a responsible grown woman, I practice safe sex with the partner I live my life with. It is also difficult for someone on the outside to understand that when you've experienced certain things, sex is not always a magical, exciting, loving, enjoyable experience like it is for them. I just think it's important to acknowledge that traumatic experiences change our perspectives and even muddy our rationalities. I'm both careful and informative when it comes to teaching my kids about sex. We have discussed things from sexually transmitted diseases to having sex under the influence to sexual trauma. My discussions must be age appropriate to be as safe as possible with the information I give. Since two of my children have been inappropriately approached at young ages, they already had a misconception of certain sexual activities. Although this did not change the fact that they knew they were too young to be sexually active, it was important to prevent sex from being a factor in their young lives. This made it all the more important to be open with them in conversations about things most people do not discuss with their children or teens/preteens because they're uncomfortable or inexperienced in trauma. I think it's better to be preventative than ignore the realities. Nonetheless, the sex talk should be age appropriate and is different for each child. I think at a certain age, it is important to be open about personal trauma in a way they can understand and benefit them. Having daughters, it is important to teach them to be careful and aware that not only inappropriate situations do occur, and that it is okay to say no and to avoid and report situations they're not comfortable with. Knowing situations occur with someone close to them makes it real and not like just something they hear about. I think it's important. I think it's important to make them aware the reason you're telling them is to prevent them from being in the same situation. These things really happen and are important to be aware of. To clarify, I'm referring to anything from unwanted attention and how to prevent it to actual rape and how to attempt to prevent it. Or at the least, avoid putting yourself in situations that could end up in an unwanted sexual encounter. It is important to acknowledge that this is the way myself and so many others feel about it. It is not the healthy way to go about it. So my younger thought process of like fuck them over before they fuck me over, right? Like wasn't necessarily a safe thought process. It was just the process that I held from life experience. Sexual inappropriateness can ruin your perception of everyone around you. You just expect everyone to be that way, but it doesn't have to be. You can get out. You can change your mindset and have a healthy sex life even if you have had horrible experiences in the past. You can do that by doing what makes you happy. You can do that by talking to someone, by doing something drastic, but not like murdering anyone, or just being bold and making your point by refusing to permit the negative behavior or leaving the situation, even if it costs you everything you have. By saying no, even if that person won't like you anymore. So what? If someone won't like you for saying no, then they aren't someone worth liking anyway. You have the right to take your life back. It will be hard. It will seem impossible. It will piss some people off, but it will be worth it. Say no, take your time, be comfortable, take back your sexual sovereignty. This is more for people who are in situations that are kind of forced to be sexual. Um, you know, situations where, oh, just go on, please. Situations where people are any negative situation, if you don't feel protected, if you don't feel like you can say no, then those boundaries need to be respected and something has to change. whether it be counseling, whether it be leaving, ending their relationship, whatever is best for you is really what needs to happen. And another sexual topic I want to talk about is predators. I've had multiple encounters with predators. One in particular I considered ignoring because we have a child together, but the situation exists and what happened happened, so it should be included. When I was 14, I met a man on a chat line who told me he was 18, turning 19. Although I was 14, I told him I was 18, which is also always a bad idea. The man and I developed a relationship and I became pregnant. During this time, he became aware of the fact that I was only 14. We continued to have a sexual relationship before I got pregnant. I later became aware that he was 21 and not 18, turning 19 like he told me he was. It was not until about a year after our child was born that I realized how wrong the relationship was and that this man was not going to outgrow certain habits anytime soon. After that, I decided to permanently end our romantic and sexual relationships. So he's actually been on this podcast. We actually talked about it on this podcast. If you want to go back and watch that podcast, he was very honest. Time has passed and we're older now, and we sat down, we had a civil conversation, and it was a raw and honest conversation. So that is also an episode on here if you'd like to go back. My interview with Fred. There was a later encounter with an older man who told me he was 19, was actually 30. And it was not until our boss told me his real age that I found out he had lied. He knew how old I was the whole time. And you guessed it, we had a sexual relationship for some time before I found out about this too. This would happen multiple more times until I married a man who was only about 6 months older than me. And then, so my first husband, his birthday is in November, mine's in May. And, and now, funny enough, I am about a year older than my current husband. So, um, once when I was about 15 or 16 years old, I was walking to a friend's house and encountered a man who was almost 30. I didn't know that at the time, but found out later. He even met my mother at one point, and it never occurred how wrong our relationship was. He was established, polite, caring, in the military, educated, and healthy. If you're basing your criteria on these things, they do not make a man an exception just because he meets some of them. He was still a predator and is disgusting for pursuing someone they know as a teenager. This man's first words to me were about how my vagina looked in shorts. That in and of itself, coming from a man almost 30 years old to a teenage girl, should have been a red flag. If we ask ourselves what I want a man to do or that would I want a man to do or say that to my daughters? And the answer is no, that man is not for you or us. I don't know. I know when we were young, we don't always think about the future, but we deserve a respect and safety while our young minds are developing and forming relationships. I absolutely not. I absolutely would not want a grown man saying sexual things to my teenage daughters. Young girls typically do not realize they're involved with a predator until they're older and have experienced abuse, trauma, single parenthood as a result of that predatory relationship, or any of those, not like necessarily that variation, but until they're older and they realize that they've experienced these things. I know that marrying young and promising young girls to older men for marriage was a thing for a long time and it still is in many places. I also think this is why people commonly just say it's a bad idea, but do not really explain why. The reason this is a bad idea is because of the difference in maturity level, life experience, sexual education, general education, level slash brain development level slash stage, financial responsibility level, financial knowledge, behaviors, physical health education, level of personal and or professional responsibility, to name a few, quite a few. As a child myself, I was not able to look in from the outside and tell you what I saw. As a mother to a child who experienced sexual assault, I can tell you what it was like looking from the outside in my own child. Some of the signs I saw after my child was a victim of sexual trauma included weight gain,
weight gain. What is weight gain? Weight gain decreases weight gain, decrease in grades, decrease in interacting with others, mood swings, crying when unable to express why, loss of appetite, irritability, and increase in attention span or focus. I actually found out about a year after the assault. My child finally felt comfortable with the help of her sibling to disclose the information about the event. While one sibling was only approached, the other was physically forced into complying. I proceeded with reporting the assault to the police, but they declined to press charges. I was told by a district attorney that they were not going to press charges because they recently lost too many cases like this one. I know now that there are other things I could have done. I could have taken it to civil court. I could have done other things, but the police, CMPD gave me literally no other information, no other outlets, no other avenues, no one, no advocacy reached out, nothing. And I didn't know. I didn't know I had other options. Had I known, he would be, he would have had some kind of legal consequence or recourse. But you only know what you know at the time, right? Although I was then told there had been recently a case where one of the sisters who accused someone of rape recanted later, and this made them not want to proceed with a similar case and to be recanted. Although my children had nothing to do with that case, I'm certain I should not have been told that private information, and my children's accounts were consistent. I will never forget getting the phone call at work and receiving the information and crying in the break room because I felt like justice had not been served for my children. I will never forget that conversation. I will never forget having to ignore the predator who was usually at our house all the time before and had been since the assault due to my lack of knowledge of it. This predator stayed at my house when I had surgery and was confined in my bed for 6 weeks recovering. This predator took advantage of his relationship with with the family as well as the fact that I was not up roaming the house that night at night. I will never forget the first time I saw this bastard at my job afterward. I will never forget diving into the break room until he was gone, but not wanting to talk about why. I will never forget the years-long relationship and friendship he ruined that day. I will never forget how much I wanted to take his life. And I will never forget my ex-husband reminding me that he will get his one day and my freedom was not worth his life. I will never forget his worthless existence and how he took a small piece of my child's happiness. I will never forget every time I visit my mom's house that that piece of shit still exists living in her neighborhood with with many other children. I will also never forget that his actions no longer have a hold on my child and that she no longer relives the experience. I'm grateful for what we learned from it together and how my children were fortunate to know how to not let him get further than he did or try to. There are people you will encounter that are horrible, disgusting child predators, and they are not always much older. They're not always strangers. They disguise themselves as educators, help, guidance, and resources. They can be caught, stopped, and sometimes even prevented or avoided. Even when they aren't, you can keep them from getting further in your family or community. I felt this was important to share for two reasons: healing and accountability. I know there are people who have not dealt with their trauma and they absolutely should. Just because other people have experienced trauma, yours is not less important. Even if you do not want to disclose it to make the person pay for their disgusting violations against your body, you deserve to heal from it. These pieces of shit deserve to be held accountable. Forcing them to take accountability helps prevent others from suffering the same violation you did. It could also add the evidence against them in previous or future violations. In my case, my child's predator was not prosecuted. But if he does it to someone else, there will be a pattern, hopefully give that person more of a chance of getting him convicted and facing the consequences of his actions. A couple of amazing individuals very close to me experienced a predator who integrated himself into our family as a very close friend. He was a common type of predator because he became very close with our family and was treated like one of my own to an extent. Until he decided to take advantage of my offspring, he was trusted and even spent the night numerous times. While I was recovering from surgery and bedridden,
Actually, while I was at work one day, he tried to take advantage of very young innocent children. It took a while, but they started to request some distance from him and eventually told me what happened. POS is what I referred to him as at the time. POS never faced legal consequences for his actions, and although I had other plans for his fate, I was talked out of it. I assume he is still alive. He lives he lives at this time lived close to a family member of mine, and it took a very long time for us to be able to go to that family member's house comfortably without my babies being scared to see his disgusting face. Although I had been the victim of sexual assault, I did not see the signs. I am so proud of my daughters for preventing it from going further or happening again. When the incident did occur, there were signs I just did not see until later. When I did see the signs, I talked to my children and asked questions, but they were not ready to disclose all the information yet. They feared the predator because he was a family friend until then. There are signs that someone who's experienced sexual trauma, including the ones I discussed, also can be included, but also can include these are sleeplessness, irritability, eating changes, moodiness, restlessness, anger, fear, loss of focus, loss of emotion, loss of interest, increased anxiety, development or increase of acne even due to hormones. Sometimes we experience trauma and do not realize it affects us. These symptoms may not apply to your children, but may apply to you. I can't tell you what symptoms I experienced as a child, unable to express my feelings or even realize what I experienced. My memory of my first assailant was not until I was an adult, verbalizing the picture in my head of me laying on a particular man in my underwear and how it made me feel as a toddler. I knew something bad happened. My child proceeded to tell me more about it. I didn't even know what my mom proceeded to tell me. My mind proceeded to tell me more about it. I don't even know what that's supposed to say. My inner child proceeded to tell me more about it. I didn't even know what happened. I just knew he was not a good man because something made me feel that way about him. I want to make two things clear from this. One, as a parent, it's not your fault if you did not know what happened, or if you knew it happened and you did something about it. I do not know you or the circumstances. Oh, if you knew about it and did nothing, then you're a different story. And I'm not judging you because I do not know you or the circumstances. But I will just remind you that your child always comes first. And it is never too late to make healthy choices for the sake of their mental health. Moving on. As a child who experiences trauma, it's not your fault if you do not remember it till later. It is your time to heal like you deserve. All this information can be used for an experience of your own as a kid or for a trauma that your child experienced. If it is you, you're going to be okay, and now you can take the time to heal yourself that you deserve. If it is your child, they are going to be okay, and now you can use this to prevent them from carrying their trauma into adulthood unresolved and treated. So this was kind of my, you know, my experience with sexual trauma and kind of, hey, these are the things that you can look for or expect. Uh, And if you see these things, maybe you start trying to figure out what happened. Always seek professional help. And I don't necessarily mean just run to the first place you can get. Always, vet people before you trust your emotions with them. But I think professional help is always important and always hopeful in in the right person. Predators do not always disguise themselves. They do not always look the same. They do not always act the same. They may offer you something like friendship or even freedom, a better life, or just a sexual experience. Predators take advantage of people who do not know they're disgusting, driven, putrid scumbags. They prey on innocence. They need for a, the they prey on innocence, the need for attachment or attention, and insecurity and lack of awareness. They may come across as mature, put together, and worth the risk, but they never are anything other than a selfish man, usually the case a man, sometimes woman, taking advantage of an inexperienced, unaware child.
I have a son who is over 18 and has always been careful to not date or even discuss anything more than platonic with anyone under 18. It may be because of my relationship with his father, or it may be because he has younger sisters. Either way, it makes me respect him a lot more to know that he is not manipulative and lacking respect for himself and others in that regard. If you want more information on the differences in development between men and women different at different ages, visit, and there's a website listed below on page 89. And I put that in there as a resource because men and women do develop differently at different ages and stages. Men's brain, males' brains take longer to develop their frontal lobes. There's physical developments. There's just things that are different. So, sometimes it's important as, if you are someone who might even be thinking about dating someone younger than you. Um, First of all, adults shouldn't have sexual or romantic relationships with children. They just shouldn't. And realistically, I don't even feel like 18 is old enough. Like men's brains aren't done developing till 25, and women's, I think, is early 20s. So, mm, mm, like, I don't know. Why would you want to have a physical relationship with a kid? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me because I'm not a predator. However, I think that if I had to guess, it would be because they're easily manipulated. So why want to manipulate someone? So that is chapter five. Uh, that's chapter five, sexually inappropriate. My autobiography, Dirt on My Cloth. Everything in this book are things that happen in my life experiences, my thoughts on the topics, and conclusions I've made in life after I started working on the book about 10 years ago. I wrapped it up about 5 years ago. Things have changed in those 5 years. So I am currently working on a kind of follow up. This one is more about turning 40. In 2 months, I will be 40. And, so there's been about a 5 year gap. So when this next book comes out, it'll be about six, maybe 7 years since this book. Um, it's not going to be like per se, this is what happened year one, year two, year three, so on after. But there will be kind of a little catch up, a short catch up, very brief, because I don't want the second book to be about the same things as the first book, but there will be a very brief catch up in the beginning of this new book. I'm also taking name ideas. So the name that I have in mind for this book is F star star King 40 FORTY. And it's kind of a play on like fucking 40 and fucking 40, like I'm about to fuck this shit up. And like so yeah, but I'm open to other names. This is titled Dirt on My Cloth. It could be something, kind of relative. The title Dirt on My Cloth came from my oldest son. His thought process was like the clean cloth God gave me at the beginning of my life and the dirt and tattered cloth that we have as an adult from all the things that we've gone through that have left scars and stains and things like that, but the strength of the cloth that's still there and the kind of rebuilding of the cloth that can be done. We can kind of heal from those scars, and those scars are going to be there, but they don't have to be gaping holes, you know. Um, so that is that, and thank you for watching. Um,
We read chapter 5 and explain that, and I really hope you enjoyed it and see you next time.